Welcome to this explainer. Today we are unpacking a truly chaotic, complex, and consequential period in modern history. We're looking at the intense 18-month countdown from January 1946 to August 1947, the exact window of time that ultimately led to the independence and the tragic partition of India and Pakistan. If you really want to understand how a unified subcontinent was rapidly split in two, you have to look closely at the power struggles happening behind closed doors. The source material actually frames this perfectly. It calls this era a cruel political Game of Thrones. You see, this wasn't just some neat, orderly handover of power by the British. Not at all. It was a high-stakes, absolutely ruthless struggle among towering political figures, and all of them had vastly different visions for the future of hundreds of millions of people. Here is our roadmap for navigating this dense timeline today. First, a nation in turmoil. Next, the Cabinet Mission Plan. Then, direct action and violence. After that, Gandhi's Peace Quest. And finally, the final partition plan. All right, let's jump right into part one, a nation in turmoil, 1946. So by early 1946, the Indian subcontinent was essentially a powder keg. Following the Quit India movement, the trials of the Indian National Army, the Royal Navy mutiny, and just the sheer economic drain of the Second World War, the British knew their time was up. A new government in the UK had even promised independence. But the political reality on the ground, it had completely shifted. In the 1946 provincial elections, Muhammad Ali Jinnah's party, the Muslim League, secured a massive 87% of the seats reserved for Muslims. Just a few years prior, Jinnah had really struggled electorally, but now he had suddenly accumulated immense political power. He'd successfully positioned himself as the sole spokesperson for Indian Muslims, demanding a separate nation, Pakistan. Because of this, the British couldn't just negotiate with the Congress Party anymore. They were forced to negotiate on Jinnah's terms as well. What this meant was that the big question of 1946 fundamentally changed. It was no longer about if India would be free. That was pretty much a given. The burning question was when and how the British would actually exit. On one side, you had the Congress Party, led by figures like Pandit Nehru and Sardar Patel, fiercely advocating for a united India. And on the other side, you had Jinnah, totally unyielding, demanding partition. But ready or not, the British departure was inevitable. Which brings us to Section 2, the Cabinet Mission Plan. In March 1946, the British Prime Minister sent a 3-member cabinet mission to India to negotiate this colossal puzzle. They had 3 primary goals. Step 1, re-establish the Viceroy's Executive Council to include Indian leaders. Step 2, set up a constituent assembly to draft a new constitution. But step 3, that was the absolute linchpin. They had to prepare the geographical and political framework for what a post-British subcontinent would actually look like. To try and appease all sides, the mission proposed a plan on May 16th to keep India united, but with a drastically weakened central government that would only handle defense, external affairs, and communications. The rest of the power would go to 3 massive regional groupings: Section A for Hindu-majority areas, Section B for Muslim-majority areas in the northwest, and Section C for Muslim-majority areas in the east. Now, because this plan offered a really high degree of autonomy to Muslim-dominated regions, Jinnah actually accepted it. Congress, however, was highly skeptical of having such a fragmented skeleton government approach. Moving into Section 3, direct action and violence. Unfortunately, that fragile diplomatic compromise didn't last long at all, and politics quickly and violently spilled out into the streets. The breakdown happened incredibly fast over the summer of 1946. On July 10th, Pandit Nehru held a press conference in Bombay, a moment our source material highlights as a fatal misstep. Nehru essentially suggested that Congress retained the right to change the Cabinet Mission Plan once they were in the Constituent Assembly. Jinnah saw this as Congress planning to force its own ideology, so on July 29th, he completely rejected the Cabinet Mission Plan. The very next day, he called for Direct Action Day to take place on August 16th. To truly grasp the intensity of this moment, we have to look at Jinnah's ultimatum to the Congress Party and the British. He declared that Muslims would start a struggle, warning that India would either be divided or destroyed. It was an unyielding stance that left absolutely no room for further negotiation, setting the stage for catastrophic consequences. The epicenter of Direct Action Day was Bengal, where the Muslim League held political power under Chief Minister Suharwardy. According to historical sources, anti-social elements were basically given free rein. Within mere days, Calcutta was transformed into a city of corpses. An estimated 6,000 people were killed and 15,000 injured in brutal street-level bloodshed. This horrific event marked the grim beginning of mass communal riots that would end up sweeping across the entire nation.
This leads us to Section 4, Gandhi's desperate peace quest.
As the country literally burned, the political leadership in Delhi was struggling just to maintain an interim government. Meanwhile, a massive ideological split formed within the Congress leadership itself. In late 1946, Mahatma Gandhi decided to take a deeply personal, grassroots approach. As riots flared up in Noakhali in eastern Bengal, Gandhi left Delhi. He walked barefoot for 180 kilometers, visiting 47 different villages, trying to personally forge peace between local Hindu and Muslim leaders, village by village. He believed true unity had to start with the people. Nehru, on the other hand, felt Gandhi was just applying ointment to individual wounds rather than curing the disease. Nehru was in Delhi, demanding a holistic, top-down political plan of action. Both of them, in their own completely different ways, were desperately trying to save the country.
And finally, Section 5, the final partition plan.
Eventually, the political gridlock just became unbearable. In early 1947, a frustrated British government sent Lord Mountbatten as the final viceroy to force a resolution. Mountbatten arrived wanting to keep India united, but he quickly saw that was practically impossible. Then, Gandhi makes one final desperate, last-ditch plea to keep the country from tearing apart. He went to Mountbatten with a radical idea and asked, "Will you make Jinnah the prime minister?" Think about that. Gandhi was willing to hand the entire government to the Muslim League, willing to have 300 million Hindus governed by Jinnah, if it just meant voiding the absolute bloodbath of partition.
Mountbatten actually agreed to this, provided Gandhi could convince his own Congress leaders. But he couldn't. Having dealt with the Muslim League's obstruction and the interim government, Pandit Nehru and Sardar Patel definitively put their foot down. The response was resolute. The sacrifices of so many cannot and will not be forgotten in the face of the ambition of one man. It was an incredibly somber, historic moment where Nehru and Patel finally and painfully broke away from Gandhi's lifelong guidance. They saw partition as the only way forward to prevent the total disintegration of the country. With partition now accepted by Congress, Mountbatten initially proposed the Dickey-Bird Plan, which would have allowed every single province to choose independence, while Nehru furiously rejected that as the balkanization of India. Realizing his mistake, Mountbatten pivoted to Political Commissioner V.P. Menon. And in a staggering feat of bureaucratic endurance, Menon drafted a completely new alternative plan in just 6 hours. This became the rapid blueprint we know today, transferring power to 2 independent British dominions, India and Pakistan, with Bengal and Punjab partitioned right down the middle. But here's the thing, drawing lines on a map was only half the problem. 559. That is the staggering number of princely states scattered all across the subcontinent. Under this final plan, these states were suddenly left to decide their own fate, whether to join India, join Pakistan, or attempt to remain independent. As you can imagine, this added immense geopolitical complexity to the map, setting off a massive, frantic scramble to unify the borders. The logistical and political challenges were absolutely immense, but the human toll was beyond comprehension. When freedom finally came at midnight on August 15, 1947, it triggered an unprecedented scale of human displacement. Roughly 15 million people were forced to migrate, crossing newly drawn, chaotic borders in a desperate search for safety. And tragically, amidst the sudden border changes, the forced migrations, and the ensuing communal riots, an estimated 1 million lives were lost. It was a devastating human toll, accompanied by widespread kidnappings and unimaginable suffering, forever scarring the subcontinent. As we wrap up this explainer, looking back at the unyielding demands, the fatal media missteps, the desperate peace walks, and the rapid-fire political maneuvering, it leaves us with a profound question to reflect upon. Given the sheer intensity of this political Game of Thrones, was the catastrophic human cost of this freedom at midnight truly inevitable, or could history have been written differently? Thank you for watching, and keep questioning the history you think you know.